Hey, She Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays the Day podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunswick. So today is one of those hybrid episodes where you are actually going to be hearing me have a conversation, me being interviewed but on the UAC podcast. Now, let's just get it out of the way right now. UAC stands for the Ultimate Achievers Club. And I've ripped on them for that name for a long time. But the people who are running it now didn't get to name it. It's like, tell me you have a big ego without telling me you have a big ego. But if I'm honest, there is absolutely a version of Lauryn in my early 30s that would be like, yes, I am an ultimate achiever. I've been accepted into this group and validation. But we're working on that with the therapist. But I love these people. I am in an accountability group with people who are writing books that, getting like 6-figure book deals from Hay House, not just like publishing an ebook, self-publishing, like people who are launching products like white labeling, creating a protein powder, building these huge platforms, getting into e-commerce, like really cool stuff. So they're very cool people. So we're not going to judge. We're not going to judge what UAC stands for. But this is a fun conversation. Let's see, what updates oh, you guys. All right. I'm not going to say who because that would be rude, but I think I've officially made it. So there's 2 ways that you've made it. One is haters, and I haven't really gotten to that point yet. I mean, I block people all the time online, but like, I don't, they're like robots and like whatever. They're not like air quote real people. So I haven't gotten to the point where I have like a real hater within my career that's like, oh my God, why do you not like me? I mean, I'm sure I do. They just haven't told me that. The other way you've made it is you have an impersonator. And I was scrolling and there's this chiropractor who does coaching and a podcast, and her background is my background. It's like the exact same color. There's even a frickin' snake plant and a neon sign. And I'm just like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. This is how we know that we are inspiring people. What is the like impersonation is the highest form of flattery or whatever. So just, live over here. Now, if she gets a full sleeve with a phoenix and a snake, then I have problem. No, and an oh, that would be a fun quiz of like, how many different tattoos can you name on Lauryn's sleeve? All right, so we'll go. I have a phoenix. I have a mermaid tail. I have the Akatar Mountain. If you don't know what that is, it's, well, you're not cool enough then. You need to go look up what Akatar is, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I have the ocean because I love it, and a bunch of flowers, and a snake. And then, so there you go. Now you got the tutorial of my sleeve. All right. I felt like there was one other announcement, but I just can't for the life of me think of what it is. So guess it wasn't that important. I don't have to do a bio today because it's me. I'm Lauryn, and I just told you everything important about me. What is on my sleeve. So we're just going to jump right into it. So let's pray. Dear God, thank you so much for the opportunity to spread my message on other podcasts and other platforms. I love this little bubble of this community, and I love sharing and being vulnerable with them. But I also love just being able to go and meet new audiences. And God, I know that I am not for everyone, and that is okay. So as new audiences experience the transformation that I am trying to give them, just help me mirror to them whatever message you need them to hear. And if that ends in them not liking me, but them pursuing their passion and mission that you have set their heart on fire, God, just give me the strength to handle that rejection and hatred. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay, without further ado, here is my conversation on the UAC podcast. Enjoy. We talk about all sorts of fun stuff.
let's jump into it. Today, our guest is UAC member Dr. Lauryn Brunslick, who I think
Brunslick. No
Brunslick. I
Didn't do
still
it.
effed it up.
That's why I
All
left
So
it
right,
to you, by
close.
the
Lauryn.
You were so close. You just flopped the landing.
Anyways, I like a lot of chiropractors saw Lauren start popping up on my Instagram feed a long time ago, and now the algorithm feeds me her stuff more than anybody else. I don't open Instagram without
I'm
seeing your
probably
face.
just making more content than anybody else.
Maybe so. But you started, Lauren, with as a practice owner, and like a lot of UAC members, you've evolved that into your own direction and your own path, and are literally building your own empire. So, you guys are based out of northern Wisconsin. I know you impact chiropractors all over the world now, but let's talk best practices on your journey. What would you like to share for maybe not the typical UAC member, but people who are scaling, aspiring to build a multi-million-dollar brand and clinic? What do you have to share?
So, I started my practice in 2010, and I get asked a lot if back when I was in chiropractic school or new graduate, if I kind of always thought that I would take this route. And by far, no, not at all. I don't want to say only had aspirations, but my plan was to grow a practice. I thought I'd be totally stoked if I got to 200 a week and I was going to have kids and do the thing. And so we did the thing, got to 200. That wasn't enough. Got to 500. That wasn't enough. And
Quick question,
then,
Lauren. Did you have a career before chiropractic, or did you go
no,
right
no,
from
I
school to?
graduated when I was 24 years old.
So this is first
Like,
time making money, anything.
yeah,
Okay.
the first multiple years of practice, people would just be like new patients. They'd just be like looking at me and I'd be like, any questions? And they're like, how old are you? And I'm like, old enough to be a chiropractor. We had like a big old party at my clinic when I finally turned 30, and they're like, 30? You've been my doc for 6 years. I'm like, yes, I have. But I married a guy with a finance and marketing degree, so it wasn't like I was on my own. So did the practice thing, and it was really good. And I look back now, and now that I have the hindsight is 2020, I think what started to happen is as that new girl energy, and I use this phrase a lot on the podcast, like the new girl energy. I use it even for guys. Like, it's like, we're excited, we owe $200,000 to the government for our degree, and it's like, this has to work. And so you are like willing to do pop-ups at Costco if that's what's going to get new patients. And then you really get to this comfort level where now you really don't want to sacrifice your Saturday. And I kind of do air quotes because I haven't talked to a single person who's at this level who's like, oh yeah, and I'm making exactly as much money as I want to. I don't want more. So I kind of do the air quotes to comfort level is like, well, you want more weekly new patients, you want more annual revenue, but you, whether you realize it or not, have totally lost that new girl energy because now you can comfortably pay for things. So you don't want to be uncomfortable. So you want to grow your practice, but you really want to do it on your own rules and things like this. So then shockingly, the practice loses the momentum and doesn't keep growing. Then what starts to happen is you're pulled out of patient care. This is like my story, and this is a story I see so many chiropractors go through. You're being pulled out of patient care to take care of this thing you made because it requires a CEO, but the only way you really make more money is if you're back in patient care. And so you start to get really frustrated. The word that's been like the it word for years is burnt out. I think a better word is more resentful. I think that so many chiropractors have no idea. It usually happens probably anywhere between year 3 and 10 that you start to resent your clinic. You resent it because it's taking all this time and energy, but it's not making as much money as you want. You resent that, you have to hire another front desk person. You have to deal with patient bullshit, even though we love 99% of our patients. You have to deal with an audit. You have to deal with Medicare. You have to deal with all these things. And it's like all of your eggs are in this basket. You want to redo your kitchen? Well, go get 20 more new patients. You want to take the family on another trip this year? Go get 15 more new patients. And so it's all this stuff that subconsciously starts happening. And I fell in love with this practice and I love chiropractic. but like you start to just get a little resentful that it's your only identity. And so, or for me, I think I had quite a bit of resentment now that I look back, but I also just kind of went the route of like, I'm a little bored. And so I started to create systems in the clinic that would allow me to have just a little more free time to build other things. And so that was kind of what happened in 2019, was like started the podcast purely as a
Hey,
hobby.
Lauren,
Oh,
before
taking
we
off.
go there, two
Yeah.
quick things. One, the way I'd phrase it is people start playing like they have something to lose. You know, when you're
Mm.
starting out, you don't have anything to lose, so you do anything, but they
Mhm.
start getting conservative, like, because they have something to lose with what they built, even though it's not what they envision in the lifestyle. The other thing that's interesting to me, I've been at this old dog long enough. I think back in the day, instead of chiropractors going down the path you're about to tell us, what they would do when they got bored was that's when they'd go learn a new technique.
Mm.
They would go, you know, it was always the techniques, it was the
Yeah.
learners. They'd start bringing other devices in, they'd get into standard process. And now there's such a wider spectrum that I think that I just wanted to highlight that I think the old school was I'm bored, so I'm going to start doing these different things in the clinic. But now you're realizing, wait, I can go way outside of the clinic. So anyhow,
Totally. You know what's really funny though is, so my 7-year itch, I started a personal brand and podcast. My 14-year itch, I brought in decompression in my practice and shockwave. So I did it both.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and I mean that's a whole other like side thing that doesn't really resonate, I don't think, with like the UAC docs. But like there's a lot of straight um rules that chiropractors are supposed to follow within chiropractic. And so like you're supposed to chase, I call them Girl Scout badges, of like you're supposed to get to 7-figure practice, you're supposed to do high volume, you're supposed to do all cash. But if you're not doing it just with chiropractic, then then we have a problem. And I don't think that's a UAC thing, but like when you start to go to some of these other practices. Yeah, Brian.
No, I was agreeing with you, and I'm also thinking, Alan, you remember, me a few years ago, where I was, bored. I can tell. Maybe it makes sense to help.
Side note, Brian called me one day. He built a very successful, software business, and he's like, I have nothing to do. Like I'm bored out of my mind. And it was the funniest call looking at him today. So
Yeah,
anyways, just go on.
yeah. That I
We're
don't want.
master
Yeah, I don't want to take the
delegators.
time, but it's so maybe I just am trying to articulate for people listening that it's not only chiropractic. When you build a business and it gets to a plateau where you feel like there's not much more you can do about it, right? Now we've done something in the past couple of years and it's changed, and now I'm back in the trenches, and it's exciting again in a way. But I think what we're talking about is doing something that you feel inspired to do in the morning,
Mhm.
because it just gets monotonous, right? Like
Yeah.
it can be monotonous. As much as you loved it at 24 years old, you still love it, but it's like, I think we need a little
Monotony is
spice,
exactly what it
variety
is.
in
You're
our
like,
life,
okay,
right?
different patient, same.
Lauren, do you, I talk to docs all week long for Chiro Matchmakers. And it's interesting to me how I would say there's a massive push. I very much came out of the school you just defined, cash practice, high volume, has to be subluxation, but maybe I'm not in those circles anymore, but I think almost every doc I talk to who has a big enough practice that they can comfortably hire good high level associates. They're in shockwave, they're in decompression, they're in functional. They've found these other avenues. It's almost always built on chiropractic. It really seems by large as an industry we've kept that. But there's other things, and you found that I think maybe you weren't so tied to the old dogma of it, so you found it a little faster. But it's rare that you find a clinic go much over $1 million anymore that's straight chiropractic. It really is.
Agreed.
I would say
Agreed.
too,
Yeah.
in my world, there's no business runs like that. Like where you only do one thing and you don't have other ways to build revenue and value for your customers. It's actually our job in the business. Now you can keep your principles and figure out how to fit all that stuff in, but it doesn't exist. and outside of chiropractic when you're
So
building a
tell us,
business.
so keep going, Lauryn. Where did you take this now? So here we are, you built the practice. Time to do something else. Where'd it go?
Yeah, so, I started to just really pull back. And the first time I pulled back, I didn't have systems in place. I was still holding on to a lot of control. Again, nobody really knows. Like most people, there's very few people walking around going like, "Oh yes, yes, I'm hyper controlling the situation." Like docs don't understand that they had a control issue until they really learn it. And so like looking back, I definitely was still just like had all of these things. We had systems and procedures, but like I was like these almost like sobriety checkpoints of like they couldn't go through an entire like flow system without my hands on it a little bit, depending on what it was. And so we really had to look at why when I pull back does the energy of the clinic. Like, I'm not a super woo woo person. I know that there's a ton of science out there about manifesting and pulling that in. So it's like, okay, so do I just have to like sit in my waiting room and like, cause that's not going to work for me. And so we really had to figure out how that clinic keeps the energy, how the clinic keeps the magneticism without me being like, I can be the visionary, but I don't have to like literally sit there
So what was the
to
answer?
inspire the people. Oh, it's a lot of repetition. It's not the answer I wanted. Because like I'm the type of person that like I want to step in and give one inspirational speech or like go through the core values exercise one time and I'm like, "You got it, right? We're good?" Okay. Cool. And it's like so we'd like solve this thing, we'd have this meeting and everyone would be feeling good. And then like 3 months later, I'd be like, "What the fuck? Why do I need?" And so like it's realizing that, a coach, my Kirby always laughs anytime because I go to like sports metaphors and I've never played any sports, so I botch them all the time. But it's like, if you think about just like a football game, right? Or a basketball game, that coach inspires the team like at the last practice. They're talking about like tomorrow, here's what we're going to face, right? And then before the game, there is this new twist on it probably. And then at halftime, I'm assuming, I don't know, I've heard from other people that like whether you're down or whether you're winning, there's a different speech. And then at the end, it's like talking about learning whether you won or lost, it's a different speech. And then it's like, but we're still moving forward. We're going to learn from our mistakes, but we're moving forward. We're looking at this. And so here I was being like, can't I just give like one hoorah at the annual meeting and it's good? Apparently not. So you need to figure out how to like continually say a lot. Like I think visionaries, I don't know whether I'm a visionary, an Enneagram 3, a manifesting generator, whatever you want to call it. Like I don't need somebody else to hype me up. And I think we forget that like our team absolutely does. And so you don't have to be in clinic, but like you have to figure out how to
Yeah.
continually be emotionally present and hype them up.
Yeah, it's a variable. My dad haunted. I remember my dad telling me when I was stepping out of practice, he'd never run a business, middle income, work for the phone company. He's like, I don't understand how you're gonna replicate yourself in all these offices, and he was in his own language saying, "You're the one that brings the energy to this thing. How are you gonna do that?" And it was a fair question. I've spent a decade trying to master, as you're highlighting. It really was. I didn't know what he was speaking over me. Tell us, one thing as you're talking, Lauryn, that I'd never really thought about till right now. I think two of the biggest podcast people in chiropractic are in UAC, and that's Jeff Langmaid with the Smart Chiropractor and you with your show. And they couldn't be two more different shows. And you're very open about your numbers that I see on some of your posts. And I've talked to Jeff, and I don't think most chiropractors realize the income earning potential from a podcast when you've built a brand like you and Jeff have.
Mhm.
And I know that's just one of your tributaries, but you've been doing it a while. And so, and I know you go into this a lot on your own podcast, so I don't need you to go in depth, but just at a high level, what's been the arc of that? And then how's that led to the stuff you're doing now?
So it's been everything that I've done now. It's just realizing the journey that I took. So like what you're alluding to, I think, right, is what I'm doing now is I'm helping healthcare professionals create an additional source of revenue, like they can love their day job, but like this second revenue stream by creating an online personal brand. And these are healthcare professionals, so we're not like teaching them viral techniques or bikini photos. This isn't like influencer stuff. This is leveraging your authority as a chiropractor and creating a personal brand online. Now, it's very different advice than it was 5 or 10 years ago. If you wanted to create a personal brand again 5 or 10 years ago, you'd have had a much easier time. So like I'm really having to work with them on how to niche down to stand out. But in the advice that I'm giving them, I'm talking about like you need something outside of social media. You also need a long form content, and they don't like that. And the thing is like short form, or we talk like social media is that bait, like that's that carrot to be like, let me entertain you, let me educate you and bring them in. But if you don't have something like a podcast or YouTube, and they don't have to be long, like just even like streaming live once a week, things like that, that's where that audience really gets that trust and authority. And so Rory Vaden, who is huge in the personal branding world, he's like done like Amy Porterfield, Rachel, like some big people. And he talks about giving away your best content for 3 years before you even try and sell anything. And I remember when he said that, and I heard him talk because ironically, we had been unintentionally doing that. I started the podcast as a hobby. Like I jokingly just posted a reel that was like me just being like, I'm just going to start a podcast. And the first episode was like 1,000 downloads. Like when I was like, oh, this is like a thing. And now we get like 6 to 10,000 downloads a month. And I was like, cool. Where the average podcast gets like 126. And so, but we didn't monetize for 2+ years because there was no like, I didn't go into it to do that. Now, on the other hand, I make 4 to 5 times what I take home from my clinic through the personal brand and all of the arms of it. And that's because the profit margins are insane.
Yeah, there's
So
not a
like
lot of
when you
people
look
helping you
at
out on
like the
this.
profit margins of an online business, it's like 80%.
Yeah.
So, it's like I still show up to clinic and adjust, but there's a whole different sense where I'm just like, some patient giving me sass, and I'm just like, I just want to be like, bitch, I don't even need to be here. Like, you don't need to be mean. My front desk is just like, please don't be mean to her. She's going to stop adjusting. I told my front desk, I'm like, I don't think I have 3 more years of customer service in me for this shit.
Well, 2 more questions before we're out of time, Lauryn. First is, of all your businesses, I'm curious, which one has built the most wealth for you?
Well, that's a tricky question because the newest one, the personal branding membership, by far has the most potential. And we just built a $5 million a year plan based as like the main source, not the main source, but like the main funnel.
Yeah. How
So
about
like
before that came along, which was it?
that would have been just my Q1 program.
Okay.
The
So
most
program
passionate
still
mentor.
online. Ours has been the real estate side of it between
Mm.
all the clinic ownership. I was
Well,
curious where you're going to
suppose if
go.
you're looking at like what contributes most to our net worth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess obviously real estate is an easy one, but like just like annual income, because like our real estate,
Not the
we
cash
have,
flow, but it's the net worth side of it, right? Yeah.
yeah, cash flow. I think for us, we only have 2 commercial and 1 Airbnb. And so
Okay.
like that's bringing in
Yeah.
probably right around 6 figures in cash flow.
Yep.
But like, which is like, oh.
What about, last question, and we'll wrap it. UAC, you've been in it for a minute now.
I have.
What's been the benefit? What's been the, I think you're coming down to Miami. Did I see
I
that?
am coming down to Miami.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to spending time with you and Kirby at F1. So yeah, anyway,
Well,
what's
we're
been the
neither of us are
benefit?
going to be there. Kirby's going to be golfing, and I'm going to be by the pool. But I'm coming for
Awesome.
the dinners.
We'll be there with you
So
for the.
basically, my accountability group peer pressured me because they're going. I am in 2 accountability groups. So I'm in a social media accountability group where it's funny. I'm like the small dog when we're looking at the number of followers that these people have. And then I'm in another all women one. And I just love the people like in the group. They're so incredible.
Oh,
So that
awesome.
accountability group's been my favorite.
Love it. Well, Dr. Lauryn, thank you for taking a minute to share with us, and we're big fans.
I'm big
Thanks,
fans
Doc. We'll
too.
see you in Miami.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right, She Slayers. So that concludes my conversation on the UAC podcast. I hope that you learned something, were inspired by something, were moved or angry about something. I don't know, triggered in some positive way. So if you are not on our weekly mailing list, we are going to be having some huge upgrades happening in the next between now and November. There are some big things going to be happening. We try not to spam you, I promise. And so that's where you're going to get all of that. You can join our mail list below. If you're not following me on Instagram, that's probably unlikely. I doubt that many of you are listening and you're not following me on Instagram. That's where we have the most fun. And DMing me is by far the number one way for me to actually be able to interact with you. If I ever don't respond back, I'm sorry, try again. I probably read it while I was driving and then I forgot because I have the attention span of a goldfish. So reach out on Instagram at Dr. Lauryn B. Follow us on the mailing list. And yeah, I think that's all the best ways to keep up with Dr. Lauryn. So until next week, She Slayers, bye.